Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the 2025 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro and the 2025 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. Now, this is my personal TRD off-road. However, I am building it to spec, very similar to a TRD Pro, and everything is nearly identical. I'll talk about some of the main differences, but this is going to suffice for our TRD Pro battle here. I'm also going to go over basically everything with the 4th gen Tacoma and the 3rd gen Tundra, as far as any issues, recalls, things like that I have seen since owning my truck and since these are very new trucks from Toyota. So let's start off with the Tacoma. Now for my TRD off-road, I have the spec with the hybrid engine. So that's what you would get standard with the TRD Pro. This comes with a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbo paired to an 8-speed automatic. It pumps out 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. And the MSRPs for the Pro start right around $63,000. For the Tundra, this comes with the hybrid as well. It's a 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 paired to a 10-speed automatic, and it pumps out 437 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque. And MSRP is going to be closer to $73,000. So Pro for Pro, you're looking about 10 grand more to get into the Tundra. So let's work our way to the exterior styling now, just to show some of the differences. Now, if this was the TRD Pro, it would have the 20-inch light bar and Toyota spelled out. You can get an idea of what that looks like on the Tundra here. But everything else is the same. Forward-facing camera. You would get Rigid Industries fog lights instead of just the basic ones. There's parking sensors. I have added that front bumper there to make it look more like a trail hunter. And then you have LEDs with some lighting up front there, and then cutouts in that grille, and a really nice design overall. Now the TRD Pro is also going to have a little bit more of a high clearance front bumper, but it will have massive fender flares like I have added to my truck, along with skid plates up underneath, which you can see I have added as well. Now for the Tundra, this is a much wider front end for this grille, and everything is going to be basically the same in terms of the tech features and what you get. This just has all of the camo, which is iconic for the Tundra Pros. You have some functional inlets underneath the headlight housings, and then some bulges up top for the hood there with the TRD Pro badging, and then you also get the skid plate up underneath, along with some of those red components for the suspension. So a much different front end, much bigger vibe, of course, for the Tundra. Now you'll notice more of the camo works its way to the fender flares, where this also has the TRD wheels along with that center cap. You can also get another look at the TRD off-road suspension, which does provide this truck with about 1 inch of lift. Now, if this were a Pro, you get the wide fender flares. So these are 1 inch wider than the stock TRD off-road, so more in line with the Pro. And then obviously I have a different lift, different wheels and tires, but the TRD Pro Tacoma would have about a 1 inch lift as well. Now I put rock sliders on my truck. This TRD Pro does not come with those. That might be an option, I am not sure, but it would be nice to see that factory for being the TRD Pro version. Now for their side designs, they are much different. We have some similar lines, however, in the lower section of the door for both of them, but they do have a lot of different characteristics for the sides. Now both of them do have the turn signal and the camera on the side mirrors, and the Tundra has power folding side mirrors. They are not power folding for the Tacoma, which would be nice to see. Now, as we work our way to the back of the Tundra TRD Pro, you'll notice TRD Pro stamped in the tailgate, which will be similar on the TRD Pro Tacoma. There's more of that camo in the bumper. This can tow around 11,000 pounds. And then this also has the power operating tailgate, which interestingly enough has no control on the passenger side. So there's only one on the driver taillight, or you can use the button underneath or the key fob too to release this tailgate. And then this does have remote start with the dual exit exhaust on this driver's side. So it's tucked up nicely up underneath there, and it sounds pretty good for this truck. Now working our way to the Tacoma, I have added an aftermarket exhaust which resembles the TRD Pro exhaust. So very similar to that. You get a control on both sides for the power tailgate. For my truck, I just have Tacoma in the lower section. It would say TRD Pro. This can tow around 6,500 pounds, and I use it to tow 6,000 pounds. Obviously, that has been much better for towing than this, but for the trips that I do, this truck is definitely beneficial for that. So with the exteriors wrapped up, let's take a look at one of the next biggest differences, and that is the back seat space. Now with the hybrid Tacoma and the hybrid Tundra, this is the battery system underneath the seat. Now in the Tacoma, these seats are fixed. They do not move for the bottoms. Keep that in mind once we head over to the Tundra. Really simple door panel, I will say, but it is functional, very nice to use, of course. And then you have grab handles on both sides. Now, a lot of people complain about the space in the back. It is tight when you compare it back to back with the Tundra. You have cup holders, you have auxiliaries, no air vents, which was a huge miss from Toyota. Would be very nice to see functional vents in the middle. You do get a storage pocket on that passenger side, and at 5'10", I have about an inch of headroom. I'm honestly very comfortable. I've had people in the back. Yes, it's tight, but it is functional to ride around town at least and have people in the back. Now there's nothing in the middle, no armrest or anything. There's the power sliding rear glass, and that is about it. You do get a little bit of storage behind the seats, but the JBL audio is behind one, and then you have some spare tire components under the other. So as we work our way to the Tundra, if you are looking for a much better backseat space, you would go with the full-size truck. So the door panel, as you can tell, is much larger as well. You have some more space in the lower section. And then with the hybrid Tundra, you can actually flip up these seats. So this would be nice to see in the Tacoma. Obviously, there's no storage there, but if you have some odd-shaped items, you can at least have a little bit more versatility in flipping that up. And then same thing with like the Tacoma, you have grab handles there, and then hopefully you can see just how much more space there is. Now you have cup holders, storage, you do get vents, and then auxiliaries down below. And then at my height, I have probably about the same amount of headroom, to be honest, but it's much wider feeling in the back. So you could easily have 3 people back here. Now there's also an armrest with cup holders in the middle, and the whole rear glass slides down. That's been very iconic for the Tundra over the years. And this gets a full moonroof, which I wish the Tacoma had. So both of those I think would be really cool for the Tacoma. Now I'll go through this fairly quickly since I have full reviews on both of these exact trucks. This gets memory seating adjustments, power folding side mirrors, all of the window controls, and then all of the storage too. And then you have a height adjustment for the seat with TRD Pro up top. Now it's worth noting for the 26-year model, the isodynamic seats that you get in the TRD Pro Tacoma are going to be an option for this truck. So you can spec it with those if you would like. Now as we start this up, everything is kind of going to be in a similar orientation as the Tacoma. However, we do have some differences like the gauge cluster screen. So for this truck, you only have information that you can go through on the left side of the screen. So you can use arrows on the left side of the steering wheel to further go through all this information. You can also change the tach and the speedometer there, just depending on how you would like to see that. So you can go into the settings and customize that. But everything else is going to be fixed. So all the info in the lower section and then on that right side. So you have a good bit that you can go through. You have your volume, Bluetooth, all of your cruise control settings, distance pacing, mode, and tuning. And then on the left side, you have quite a lot. So there's the power outlet in the bed, heated steering wheel, the light bar up front. There's also a cargo light, automatic headlights, fuel cap release, dimmer switch for the gauges, odometer, and a safety parking sense control to turn on and off. And then you get a little bit of storage up top with an auxiliary, and then this screen is basically identical. Same size as the Tacoma and all the same information. What's different is the controls down below. So you have fan speed, temperature, where you'd like the air to go, heated and ventilated seats. There's a control for the rear vents there, and then you have power, volume, and an auxiliary. There's also trailer braking system with a backup assistance, and then you have a view button for the 360 camera system, which is going to be the exact same as the Tacoma there. You get a locking rear diff, power tailgate, which you can open and close. Then there's wireless charging, cup holders, auto hold, and the e-brake. And then the camera system is going to be the same. So you have the same functions that you can go through. So I will be going through the Tacoma a little bit quicker since all of this is the exact same. And then there's a few different driving modes for on-road that you can go through. There's tow and haul, the crawl control with the multi-terrain select, your 4-wheel drive, and then you have a lot more storage in the armrest and a locking glove box here. And then you do get the digital rear view mirror, garage door buttons, and a bunch of settings to go through for that system. There's a sunglass holder, and then all the controls for the sunshade, the sunroof, and that rear glass. Where as you can tell, there is a lot of glass in this truck. So it's very easy to see all around. Pickups really don't have any blind spots because of the large glass that's all pretty close to you here. And so as we work our way to the Tacoma now, it's missing memory seats, it's missing the power folding side mirrors, which I think would be really great, especially for the pricing of these trucks. You have a power operating front seat. I went with the premium package, so this is that Softex leather. You would get the isodynamic seats and the Pro, of course. And so as we start this up, we'll go through it very briefly since everything is virtually the same. One big difference, however, is the gauge cluster. So you can actually go through a few different settings here for the left, the middle, and the right by going through these, and then you can customize all of these. So you have the middle screen, the one on the right, and the one on the left, which you can customize and set up. So I have all of these preset for the information that I would like to see. So a little bit more configurable than the Tundra there. The rest of the controls are very similar with adaptive cruise and all of that. Now, if this was a Pro, you'd have that same TRD light bar control. In this truck, I have 3 auxiliary switches, tailgate, power outlet in the bed, traction control, automatic headlights. One thing that is missing in the Tundra that I just noticed, you have an adjustment here in the Tacoma where you can angle the pitch of the headlights. So as I have a lifted truck, I can aim them down to not blind cars in front of me. Fuel cap release, dimmer switch, and then the cargo light there too. Now there's no storage up front, but you do have the removable JBL audio speaker. So I can pop that out and take it with me, which is nice. And then for the rest of this screen, everything is the same, but in my truck here, of course, I have my phone paired, so I can at least show the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto here, where you can go through all these functions, which is really nice. A little bit different of a layout for all of the climates, but all of the same functions. Heated steering wheels on this side. There's trailer braking. I do have the backup assistance. It's down here. I have a locker, sway bar disconnect, which you do not get on the Tundra. You have the rest of the toggles for your climates, more auxiliaries and wireless charging there, and then the same 2 icons here for the camera system. And then of course everything here is going to be the exact same. Now there's auto hold, the e-brake, all the 4-wheel drive selectors. You do get the same driving modes with a little bit different of a graphic here. And then crawl control, tow and haul. A lot smaller of an armrest here, but you have cup holders there. You get storage in the glove box, and you get this tray up top with an auxiliary on the side. So that is nice to see. Everything is the same up top here. Sunglass holder. The only thing different is that rear glass. So it slides vertically rather than horizontally. And then visibility is going to be nearly identical to the Pro. So before we get both of these out on the road, let's go over any of the issues or any concerns that these trucks have had since their introduction. So in doing the research for this video, I tried to find as many issues, recalls, anything that I could find on both of these trucks. Now for the Toyota Tacoma, this was a brand new generation for 2024. So I waited for 2025. I also wanted to get Terra, which is a Pro color, which is another reason I'm calling this a Pro, just because it's virtually identical to that truck. Now with my 2025, I've had 0 issues. I have about 1,100 miles on this truck so far. It's also worth noting that I have well over 3,000 miles with the 4th Gen Tacomas, simply because I've been able to drive them a lot, both on-road and off-road, before I decided to purchase my truck. So keep that in mind. I've been driving these since 2024, since they came out, and I still decided to buy one. I have no regrets so far. So let's start off with some of the issues for the Tacoma. We were seeing some transmission failures in the beginning for the 24-year model. Now it's also worth noting that a lot of people do like to wait a year before a new vehicle comes out. That was the case for me just because I was waiting for the color. I couldn't get Terra on a 2024. So it just happened to work out that I waited to get a 2025. But a lot of vehicles could have issues, could not have issues. It really just depends, you know, on the vehicle that you get, of course. So it's kind of the luck of the draw with that. But 2024s were having transmission failures, and Toyota's remedy for that was the transmission assembly and torque converter needed to be replaced. So with Toyota as well, they are really known for any issues that vehicles have. They're very quick to get those recalls out, to get those vehicles fixed, to get customers back in the vehicle and driving in a reliable vehicle. From what I have found in the year 2024, when this truck came out, there were 5 documented trucks having the transmission problems. Now, of course, that could vary. That could be larger. Maybe I missed some sources here or there. But with the amount of trucks that are out on the road, especially with the new Tacoma, at least seeing 5 is not a huge percentage of vehicles. So a lot of people like to blow up issues. They see one vehicle has a problem. That means all of them have an issue, which is not the case. Now with that, like I said, Toyota addressed that quickly. They had all their technicians taught to fix them and how to fix them correctly. And looking also at what Toyota, or in general, there's a TSB, which you can look up for various manufacturers. You can put in your VIN number as well to see if your vehicle is affected. My truck VIN was not on that list for the transmission failures. It wasn't on the list for any other issues. So from what I'm seeing from my personal experience, it looks like Toyota has fixed these issues, at least for the 25-year model. However, with that being said, when I was researching this video, I saw something pop up on a group that I'm a part of with a 25 Tacoma with 500 miles on it. The mass airflow sensor on it failed, and that ended up frying the ECU. Toyota was able to replace that. The truck has not had any issues since that I know of from what the updates that I've seen. So again, Toyota's really quick to fix any of these issues. It's also worth noting too that a lot of people did have complaints when Toyota went away from the V6 and the V8. These are very reliable engines for both of these trucks, and I had a third gen. This is my third Toyota Tacoma. Honestly, I don't see any reliability issues so far with this engine. It has a lot more power, a lot more torque than the third gen. Obviously, the V6 is tried and true. Those vehicles can run upwards of 1 million miles. We've seen some of those occur. So with this engine here, only time will tell, but this engine is not new. It is new for the Toyota Tacoma. It's not new from Toyota. It has been used in several other markets, and we've seen them be reliable in other sources too. So putting into a truck, especially a truck I used to tow 6,000 pounds, I will update you guys at some point if there are any issues with my truck. Of course, I will be making content on that as well. Now let's move on to some of the other issues that I have seen. There was one video from 2024 where Tacoma had some front differential issues using crawl control, putting it in 4 low, going off-road, and there was a mechanical failure. Now, of course, that was one truck. We haven't seen any other issues with that from other vehicles. All of the Tacomas that I have been able to drive, the 4th gens, I've taken them off-road. They have a lot of miles on them. I haven't seen that issue pop up at all. So the internet likes to blow up concerns when they see one vehicle. They think it spoils the whole bunch and everything else. The next issue I want to talk about is overheating with the 35-inch tires. I did see one video with a base engine, so not the hybrid, which overheated with 35s. That truck had hundreds of pounds of extra weight on it, and I think the bad decision there was not going with the hybrid. If you're planning on rooftop tents, extra gear, camping, whatever you may have, you're going to want to go with the hybrid to get that extra power, to get that hybrid assistance, especially at a slow rate of speed. I went with the hybrid for towing. Towing 6,000 pounds is very easy with this truck. You can feel it, of course, but that hybrid system definitely takes less stress off of the engine and the turbos, and it just gives you more power. Now, with my 35s, I've used it to tow 6,000 pounds. I've towed in 100-degree weather. I have 0 overheating issues with this truck. So maybe it's just a hybrid versus non-hybrid thing, or just the climate and environment that truck was in and the added gear on the truck. Now, I'm not saying that the trucks shouldn't be built to put on your overlanding equipment, especially from Toyota. They know owners are going to do this, but could just be a fluke. We haven't seen any other trucks experiencing those issues. And so now let's work our way to the latest generation for the Toyota Tundra. Now, I don't have quite as much experience with driving these trucks. We have had a few over the years. We've been able to drive them at the Tacoma events that we've been to, but it's been really cool to drive this around for the last couple of days. Now with the Tundra, I think we have seen a little bit more issues with this regarding the engine and transmission issues, with failures in that and differential issues as well. Now, this engine is also used in some Lexus products as well, where we have seen a cross with some of the issues between the Lexus models that have this engine and the Tundra, of course, here. And again, Toyota has been very quick to resolve those issues. I don't think any 25 owners have had any issues, but we have seen some in 2024, just like we saw with the Tacoma. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about that I did see was a lag in acceleration with these trucks. Now, that is the same with the Tacoma too, but I didn't see this issue as much as with the Tundra. Pretty much every vehicle is going to have a lag in the acceleration from brake pedal to applying the gas. So I haven't experienced anything in this truck that I haven't seen in any other vehicle that I have driven. So I don't really think that's a concern. I think that's just how vehicles and automatics are made. You have a little bit of dead space between touching the accelerator and actually moving with the vehicle. And with having the hybrid here, from what I've noticed with my own truck, under like 1 mile an hour. So if the truck is actually moving, the engine's not actually powering the vehicle. It's the hybrid system that's moving the vehicle. So when I go to give it some acceleration, there's not a lurch, but there's a significant difference between being in that EV mode and actually having the engine kick in and starting to move. So I guess I would call that a little bit of a quirk, having the hybrid system, not something you're going to experience in a non-hybrid model, which you can get both of these without the hybrid system. Now, next up, I found this stat to be very interesting. So the Tundras and the hybrids, so the non-hybrid and the hybrid, had a reverse lamp that may not illuminate in reverse issue. So of course, putting the vehicle into reverse, having the white lights illuminate was an issue that these trucks were having. Toyota made a recall for 443,444 Tundras, both hybrid and non-hybrid. This also included models not in the USA, so for the entire world and where they are marketed. This made up less than 1% of the Tundras that were affected. So it's a big number, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small percentage and something that you can still functionally drive the vehicle, but it was a software update that needed to be fixed, and that was all. So honestly, that is pretty much all that I found with any issues regarding both of these models. So for the quick test drive, since I have full reviews on both of these trucks, let's just talk about the power. So from 20 miles an hour in sport mode, here we go. And we can get up to speed where it's not quite as quick as the Tundra, as you will see, but it is faster than the V6 in the 3rd gen, which I did have. We have a lot more power than the naturally aspirated engine. So it gets up to speed, it handles these 35s very well. So I am impressed with that. You really can't even feel it, which is nice. So here's what it's like to be behind the wheel for the Tacoma. It's a small truck, as you would expect, mid-sized truck, very similar layout to most other vehicles in this class, but it's definitely a nice truck. I like the materials that it has. You know, there is some plastic, which a lot of people complain about, but my 3rd gen had plastic too, so you can't really complain that much, I guess. It costs a lot more than the 3rd gen, which is surprising to see with some of the materials, but in general, over the last almost 1,200 miles, I really like it. It's a truck. It's something that's rugged. You know, stuff is going to be easy to clean rather than having like nice leather and materials and things like that. Some of those work trucks that you see, you know, may not even see dirt. Some of these probably won't either, but in general, it's a really nice truck, has a good bit of power, and mine actually sounds like a V6. So if you get the TRD Pro with the TRD exhaust, I have an aftermarket exhaust on my truck here. It makes it sound like it's not a 4-cylinder, which I think is really cool. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's the least sounding 4-cylinder I've ever heard with the exhaust. So if you put an aftermarket exhaust, you'd be hard pressed to know that this was a turbo 4-cylinder engine because of that sound. So I think that is a really cool part about it. But check out the full detailed reviews, especially the one I made on my own truck here, for more driving impressions and what this truck is like. So let's hop into its bigger brother and see some of the differences. So same test, we are in sport mode, going 20 miles an hour, here we go. And this truck, of course, has a lot more power. It weighs more too, but it definitely has a quicker get up and go feel to it. And that's going to help too with towing, which I think I mentioned in the Tacoma. I used both of these to tow the same trailer, and obviously this does a much better job, but for the towing that I do, my Tacoma is definitely very sufficient. So here's what it's like to be behind the wheel for the Tundra now. Much bigger truck. You have a lot more space up front. You also have a very large turning radius as well. It has been interesting to get used to this over my Tacoma for backing into parking spaces and things like that, but it's something that you would get used to, of course, if you are getting a truck of this size. But as you can tell with this, we do have some more soft touch materials, at least up on this armrest here. The whole dash is plastic like in the Tacoma. And so, you know, you're pushing the $70,000 price range. It would be nice to see maybe some soft touch materials up here, maybe even a head-up display. Neither of these trucks have the head-up display. But regardless of that, this has been a great truck to drive. I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to see what it's like to go with the full size here if and when I need a bigger truck. The only downside is that this isn't as much of an off-roader as the Tacoma is. So that's why I went with a smaller platform to do some off-roading. Even though we are in a TRD Pro here with the small lift kit, you could do some trails, but it's not going to be as hardcore as the Tacoma. Now, if you remember this turn with the Tacoma, I was able to do this without backing up. And I would definitely have to drive over the grass there in this truck. So the turning radius, as you would expect, is a little bit bigger there. And with this truck, I wouldn't quite say this sounds like the V8. So with the Tacoma, 4-cylinder sounds like the V6 with the right exhaust. I wouldn't really say this sounds like a V8, but it definitely has a good exhaust note for a twin turbo V6. And so there we have it, a comparison with both of these TRD trucks. If you are in the market for buying either a Tacoma or a Tundra, you can actually research any recalls the vehicle may have or had in the past. Do your due diligence on either truck just to make sure you are getting a sound truck. You're getting a truck that if it had issues, they have been resolved, or you're getting a truck like mine currently is that hasn't had any issues and hopefully won't have any issues in the future. Both of these can be very reliable vehicles. I think they are great options to go with. Yes, the older trucks with the naturally aspirated engines are statistically going to be more reliable, but I don't think you can go wrong with either of these trucks here. I've thoroughly enjoyed my 25 Tacoma, and of course I have a lot of content that I've made on it and a lot more content in the future to make with it. For the Tundra, it was nice to have this for the week to at least experience it with its towing capabilities and just how the truck drives and what it entails. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video with both of these TRDs. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I'll see you all in the next video.